2022 was an amazing year for movies, and I feel like a top 10 list doesn't do it justice. So we decided to do a tier list to rank where these movies go.
Here we go. Buckle up. It's going to be a bumpy one.
Starting off with the Batman, I think the Batman was pretty good. Not my favorite Batman iteration, but a refreshing new take. I'm putting it in the A tier personally. What do you guys think?
I'm gonna go A tier. I think it's like on par with the Dark Knight. Very different, but it's up there for me.
A tier. I love seeing the new take on Batman, like you were saying. It being not a novice Batman, but you can tell that he's still trying to figure it all out.
I would rank this movie S tier if Riddler was a little better. For me, that's what actually brings it down. I love the world. I love Penguin and Catwoman, but Riddler gets taken care of, and then you deal with Riddler's goons at the end, and it kind of took me out of like the weight of what happens at the end of the movie. I would rather Riddler not be in prison. Next on the list, Jurassic World Dominion. This movie had the potential to be the Avengers Endgame of Jurassic Park movies, and they fumbled the fucking bed. I am putting this movie in the D tier. Hard to rewatch and see how much potential was squandered. I'll say the dinosaurs were cool, but they put us right back on an island, which is what we've seen in every Jurassic Park movie. And they finally had a world where dinosaurs were all over the earth, and they still decided to be on the island. Missed opportunity to me, D tier.
Definitely D tier for me. It seems like anything interesting that they had planned for that movie was weighed down by the almost like obligation that they have to include the original cast members that seemed to really weigh the movie down because it was like such a see-through gimmick in that way. It's almost like all the momentum and the stakes of that movie were manufactured as opposed to like genuinely created through actual story.
Fuck that movie.
Word.
First Marvel movie on the list, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. This movie would be higher for me, but I have an unpopular opinion that they should have recast Chadwick Boseman. I'm putting it at the B tier. I enjoyed this movie, thought Neymar was cool. Kind of wish we got a little, I don't know. There's something missing from this movie, and I don't know what it is. So I'm putting it at the B tier. It was one of the best movies of Marvel Phase 4, though, I'll say.
It's not saying a lot. It's definitely going to be B tier for me as well. I think that's an appropriate rating. I was very excited for this movie, and I think that they had to juggle a lot of things between trying to honor Chadwick Boseman's memory as well as like expand upon the MCU in a way that they probably didn't initially plan to do.
B or C is fair. I just felt like there was some things in it that I couldn't get behind. The fact that there was, they found the city of Talokan just random. She just found it. Like they had like a little tracking device. It's like, all right, so they've been hidden all this time,
right?
And they just found it. And also, I hate the idea that there was just more vibranium. There was just more vibranium in other places. Felt like it was just for the sake of the script. And I understand they had to do some other stuff, but I feel like that would have been in the script regardless. You know what I mean? Like they were probably going with the vibranium approach since the beginning. And to me, I just feel like that's a little cop-outy for the sake of introducing new things. And the whole point of Wakanda is that they're the only ones with it.
I would have made Talokan's source adamantium and introduced adamantium with that, something that beats vibranium, and have that be like Wakanda's like, what do you mean there's a metal better than vibranium? I think that would have been way more interesting.
Cop out, kind of all of Phase 4.
True.
Facts.
I slept on this next movie for a long time, and then I watched it 3 times in theaters because I had to just keep watching it. Everything Everywhere All at Once. I'm giving it the S tier. It is one of the best movies of the year. It was one of the biggest surprises of the year. I think if you haven't seen this movie, all of the buzz that you hear about this movie, everyone talking so good about it, it's watered down. You have no idea what you're getting into that movie.
Yeah, definite S tier for me. As you just said, I don't think there's any compliment that you could pay Everything Everywhere All at Once that somebody could walk out of the movie theater and not agree with. Like, to me, it's just how much do you love it? But the groundwork, level 1, is loving it. It's a milestone in the medium for me. Like, everything that a movie is capable of doing, I think Everything Everywhere All at Once execute on.
There's nothing bad to say about it. And I watched it at the house. It's a goated movie.
It was perfect.
There's other multiversal movies that came out this year, and this one blew it out of the fucking water. I didn't think Black Phone was going to be that great, to be honest with you. Went in with very low expectations. Was hella surprised to come out of that movie. So excited. Scott Derrickson has now become one of those directors that anything he makes, I'm there to see it. And I low-key wish that he still made Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, but I'm so glad this got replaced with it. Such a great movie. I definitely would put that on the A tier.
Everywhere that movie could have like zigged, it seemed to zag in a way that felt super refreshing to me. But it also wasn't the point of the movie where it's like, oh, it's such a different take on horror. Like it is a tried and true horror film with all the tropes and everything, but they just execute upon it so well. Just the concept alone, like the idea of there being a phone at the location in which so many children died and you being able to speak to all of them. Like I've just never even, unless somebody can correct me out there, I've just never even seen another movie with a concept similar to that. So just off that alone, it deserves an A tier for me.
And I thought having the phone in the movie, having that supernatural aspect that wasn't too grand and too crazy, it added something to it that I haven't seen in other movies. And then the kids get back at the end is crazy.
The Black Phone and Everything Everywhere All at Once are two movies I wish we would have reviewed on the channel. This next one, I regret the review that we gave this, low key, because we came out of the theater pretty fucking hype. Black Adam. I think we were just surprised it wasn't a piece of shit. But I think with the domino effect of DC just crumbling and knowing that we're probably never going to see The Rock Black Adam, that shit is definitely some C tier.
I think it's actually a D tier. I was only there for the Dr. Fate. I didn't really care. I would like to announce that, this is me officially beating the Rock fan allegations. I don't fuck with him like that. Black Adam was okay. Should have been the Dr. Fate movie. Every positive thing I said about the movie is only because of the Dr. Fate scenes. When I say, oh, Black Adam was pretty cool, I actually mean Dr. Fate. D tier for me.
Like it's fine, I guess. But I will say, since it showed up on, I think it's on HBO, I haven't rewatched it for as much as I said. I think I gave it an 8 in the review or something like that. Like, which the scaling is different for like movies like that. But for as much as I liked it, I didn't go and rewatch it.
You can watch our review of Black Adam if you want, and then look at how like depressed we are on reflecting on it. So unfucking forgivable that Superman shows up at the end and we'll never see that payoff. Personally, this is my biggest letdown of the year. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. I thought this movie was going to be so fucking epic. I went into it with very high expectations, and I think that is where it failed for me, is because I thought it was going to be super great with Sam Raimi, all the multiverse and I thought it was going to be Avengers Endgame Part 2 with Doctor Strange, and I think that's my own fault. I don't think the movie's that bad, but I am putting it on the C tier.
I think C is fair. I honestly think we could go lower. My main problems with this movie is not that on surface level, it's not that bad of a movie. Like, it's not terrible. But I think at this stage, for better or for worse, the makings of a good MCU movie is delivering on the hype that you promised. Like, to me, that's essentially part of the mechanism that they have over there. And for us to really only spend meaningful time in 2 different multiverses, one of which is just pretty much Earth number 2, except with real weird little quirky rule changes that are built-in comedic relief. That alone to me makes it a bit of a letdown.
The movie's called Multiverse of Madness. I just feel like there wasn't a lot of multiverse going on. And I feel like there was a lot of, not that they promised anything, but I feel like there was a lot of building to certain things that ended up not mattering at the end.
The scene in the trailer where he's falling through all the different multiverses, that's it. That's as close as we get. Silly on Marvel's part to have even marketed it that way. There was a solid movie in there that you could have shown to people, so why even do that?
Fumble of the year goes to Thor Love and Thunder. It had the potential to be one of the awesomest sequels to Thor Ragnarok, has Christian Bale as Gore the God Butcher, and it fucking sucks. The review, I think I gave like a 5 out of 10. I would give it a 1 out of 10 now if I could. Like, I don't think I'll ever watch this movie again. I hate every single joke that goes along.
When you're following up Thor Ragnarok, which was such a good Thor movie, it's like the movie is just so sure that it's great and so funny when the entire time it just feels obnoxious to me. And I'm not, please don't come in the comments like, well, actually not every superhero movie has to be super serious. I got that, dog. But this is not even, I'm not laughing. I didn't have that good of a time at the movies. And I have a very low bar.
There's literally a scene at the end where he's fighting Gore on that Shadow Realm thing, and Gore's about to kill him is what it looks like. And he cracks a joke about his breath or something like that. And it's like, dog, this is Thor 4. This is the 4th movie. He's supposed to be like marking shit out. And it's just not there. It's not there.
If you want to talk about a good Viking movie, though, The Northman. What a good ass movie. If you think Robert Eggers is a weird director, he's got weird movies, watch The Northman. It's probably the least weird movie. It's the most badass movie he's ever made, personally. Amleth, top 10 protagonist of all fucking time. Dallas put me on this movie. I was sleeping on it. He was like, you gotta fucking watch this. Watched it, immediately watched it again. It was one of those, like, you have to like really digest how amazing a movie like this is. And I don't even like Vikings. I don't even like shit like this.
Right. Yeah. That's not even my type of shit. But Amleth is maybe the hardest dude to ever fucking exist. I'm simple. Right? I like simple stories. Dude wants to do this thing. These things are in the way. My boy Amleth said what he was going to do in the first 20 minutes of the movie. I will kill my uncle. I will save my mom. I will avenge my father. Guess what we did, gang? All three. All three. It climaxes with the fucking sword fight in the volcano. I've never believed in a protagonist more than I believed in Amleth because he told not one fucking lie.
It's an S tier movie. I agree.
I think the funnest movie of the year actually is Bullet Train. Super surprising. Based off the trailer, I wasn't sure if this was going to be just a fart box. I didn't know if this was going to be an amazing action movie. I came out of this, I enjoyed it. It has a lot of great cameos, has a lot of great action sequences. It's actually pretty funny. And Lemon and Tangerine are stealing the show every time I watch that movie. So I give it a B tier. Surprisingly good and fun to watch.
The philosophy of Thomas the Train Engine has never felt so close. He really is one of the poets of our time, one of the great minds. Lemon and Tangerine, I think, steal the show. The movie's almost more about them than Brad Pitt's character, in my opinion. Like, when I walk away from that movie, I think more about them than I do Brad Pitt.
I don't remember what I gave it in the review, but I feel like since it's come out on Netflix, I would like to revisit the review and give it a higher score.
10.
S tier movie. I don't know, man. It's a fun movie.
I think it's the sleeper hit of the year. A lot of people slept on this movie, didn't go out and see it. It is on Netflix now. So I think if you haven't seen this movie, you just need something to watch. Definitely worth checking out. Another one that I had no idea was coming out this year until Dallas was like, you have to watch this movie. Barbarian. One of the most horrifying theater experiences of my life, because I was in there with like two other people. And we were all just in the cut, in the dark, watching Justin Long put titties in his mouth that like are the scariest titty. Like, I don't even know. There's probably some weird fetish of it online. For that, it's a fucking F tier almost. But it's a good movie actually. It was a surprisingly good movie. I am getting kind of tired of like the tall, lanky, scary woman that we've had in a lot of movies these past couple of years. There's something about weird, tall, scary women. It's A tier though. It's A tier. I think if you're looking for a good horror movie, something that's gets you on the edge of your seat. We watched this movie and we're gonna review it, and we ended up not reviewing it, but we do have a reaction of it on the channel, which I think is pretty funny.
I love this movie. Before I even get into the movie itself, I got to say, it's like one of the best trailers I've ever seen too, by the way. But I was shocked at how good it actually was. And upon rewatching it a couple of times now, I think 2 or 3 times, and still enjoying it when it's very much like a shock-based movie and kind of like, big reveals play a large part in that movie and things like that, for it to still hold up, I think says how good it really is. I think Tess is one of the most likable in terms of how much I want to root for her. Horror movie characters. I think Justin Long further certifies himself as a real scream queen out here. He's just goated in the horror movie space.
True.
And I think what I love most about that movie is just how much it played with the pacing.
I've told so many people to try and watch this movie. The scary lady's a huge part of it, but at the same time, I want to give respect to the sound team because they do a really good job of making it feel very like haunting.
Someone gave a B-rate movie a fuck ton of money to go make something on the A tier, which is why Barbarian is on the A tier.
It has the spirit of a bad movie, but it isn't one. But it isn't one.
But if you want to talk about a horror movie that stands out above the rest this year, personally for me, an S tier movie, Jordan Peele's Nope. You could have easily made this movie just a simple UFO movie, cookie cutter, anything you've already seen, everything you already know. Jordan Peele, of course, is like, nope, I'm going to change this around. I'm going to make it really cool. You have standout characters with Daniel Kaluuya, Keke Palmer. This is why we go to the movies. I was transported to a different world. I felt like I was watching a space western.
I think Nope actually had so much room to be awful, given how it was like so much bigger than anything Jordan Peele had done prior to that. I think it's so cool that Jordan Peele took the route of you kind of leaving you to your own devices to interpret the movie instead of like, forcing the meaning down your throat like a lot of things do. Daniel Kaluuya and Jordan Peele has got to be like the tag team moving forward. I think this is like the coming out party for Keke Palmer as well. Just everything about this movie was a hit for me. I can see where some people maybe find it a little slow. Maybe they don't exactly get the point of it. But to me, Jordan Peele delivered on a spectacle, which is the entire reason why I like to go to the movies.
You can have casual movie watchers or casual moviegoers go see it and enjoy it. And then people that want to like put a lot of thought and a lot of like, preachiness into it and still come out and everyone still be ultimately satisfied. Aside from it, like you were saying, having that Jordan Peele effect where, people do too much thinking or whatever, like you can come out on either side of it and still enjoy it. It's a great movie.
For a great year of horror movies, this one standing out above the rest at the S tier, I think is very much well deserving. Keeping on the horror train for a second here, Halloween Ends is the how to make a bad finale for a star icon character. Everybody in America knows who Michael Myers is. You could get people to the theater just based on Michael Myers' name. And they make a trailer for this movie that makes it seem like Michael is going to be folding people up the entire film. And as we see throughout, he's in it for 10 minutes. I don't mind the decisions. I don't mind the creative decisions they make with Corey and Michael if they would have presented it in the trailer that way. But saying it's going to be the slugfest of Laurie Strode and Michael Myers and then getting the Corey movie just really felt kind of cheap to me. Like they try to do something interesting. If it wasn't the finale, I wouldn't be as mad.
I'll say that I do give this movie a little bit of grace just because I think we almost lose track that most Halloween movies are bad. I will say I was disappointed. I did think we were going to see fucking Game 7 Michael, which I was very hype about, and we did not at all, which is a bit of a bummer. But like the storyline surrounding Corey and everything, I actually would have been okay with them taking those risks if they would have committed to them within the movie. Like if we're building Corey up to kind of almost take up the mantle of sorts of Michael Myers, only to have him killed and mean essentially nothing.
If there was it would be a 20-minute film and 10 minutes would be him getting yoked up by two different characters, by
True.
Corey and by Laurie. Like he doesn't even get, like I don't even consider his dubs because I think he only kills one person.
Everything about this movie seems like so uncharacteristic of Michael in a way where it's like, truth be told, you could have just made a movie about Corey becoming the new Michael Myers and not even had Michael in it, and it would have been fine.
A lot like Thor Love and Thunder. I was expecting something great there and was heavily disappointed.
Still better than Thor Love and Thunder. Still better.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Way better. It's on D tier, man. We're not.
Yeah.
It's watchable. It's watchable.
Yeah.
This movie is like teeter-tottering as best movie of the year for me. I had no expectations going into Top Gun Maverick and was floored with what I had watched. People are going to say Tom Cruise is the last action movie star. I believe it, and I agree with it. I've never seen someone willing to put themselves in so much danger to make an action-packed movie, and it feels so genuine, but the story not be that complicated. It's just basic film techniques, basic movie knowledge, but it's all packaged so perfectly. It's like you were transported back to the 80s, but they had perfect camera work and perfect everything. The jet action sequences, the music, the tension, the dynamic with Maverick and Rooster, Miles Teller. I love this movie. I've watched it probably 4 times in theaters, and I will always cherish seeing this movie in theaters. If it ever goes back to theaters, I will always go back and see it because I don't think this movie is done justice on a small screen. You have to hear the jet engines with the surround sound in your theater. You have to see, Tom Cruise driving his motorcycle alongside of a jet airplane. Like it's just adrenaline and action packed, and it is Tom Cruise's love letter to his previous self. You don't even have to like the first Top Gun movie. The first Top Gun movie I don't even like that much. This one, almost best movie of the year. It's still I'm kind of back and forth with it.
Everything about this movie was like unapologetically 80s, but it wasn't reliant on it. It wasn't a gimmick. It's just it felt like more of like a creative decision and a tone that we're going for instead of like just relying on nostalgia. I actually thought it was like a really, really like a pretty emotionally engaging story. Like I kind of anticipated just kind of like, don't really focus on the story too much. I'm here to see the jets, right? Like that's what I'm here for. But you find yourself actually liking these characters more and more. There's not a ton of time in the jets, like a shit ton, but the time that is spent in there is amazing. It's you can actually tell that they're really flying these jets. By the way, that's the one of those things where it's like the fact that they're flying the jets wasn't a gimmick, but it is something that I think made it that much better. Everybody shredded out of their mind, got mustaches and shit. I'm fucking there, dog. I'm all in. Just for what that movie has done for the industry, we have to put it at S tier, I feel like, because I think it's really unlocked the door because it was so financially successful.
It's a movie that I wish we would have reviewed on the channel, but it was before we had kind of caught our stride.
Yeah.
And I regret that one. We might have to revisit that one because it is
Watch
so
along,
good.
please.
Oh
Please.
yeah, I think we will do a watch along to that just because it is so good. Another standout of the year, and something I've never really seen done before. Ty West releasing 2 movies in the same franchise, X and Pearl, both on the A tier for me. But to get into X, had no idea what I was getting into watching that movie. If you would have told me old people would be the slashers and that it would be as scary and fucked up and awesome as it is, I wouldn't have believed you. But here we are, an awesome movie. And Kid Cudi, what a standout performance from my guy.
I really had no expectations going into it. I didn't think it'd be bad or good. I was really open to it. One of my favorite movies of the year. What I love about it is it doesn't necessarily like reinvent the wheel when it comes to slasher movies. Instead, it just executes upon everything that makes slashers good. Pearl and Howard as villains, pretty unsuspecting at first, but by the end of it, I fucking hate them. They're disgusting. They deserve to die. And to think that he followed it up just as well, incredible.
Yeah, shout out to Mia, man. Did not know that she was the old lady until like much after watching it. Like, wow, she's the old lady. You know what I'm saying? Like, she kills it. The stories are great. I love how Pearl comes out after, but it's more of like a prequel and it just adds to X.
To get into Pearl as well, also an A tier movie. To take a shadowy, bleak farm night and like all this murder happening to film a porno, and then taking it to 1918 and seeing the origins of Pearl and how she's always been fucked up, but it completely changes tone. It's bright and super shiny and everything's like so whimsical. If you told me it was in the same universe, I wouldn't believe you. It's crazy to see the in between of Ty West in the same year. I can't stress this enough. If he comes out with Maxine and he does that within the next year or so, that's a trilogy in less than 2 years. And if it all smacks, Ty West goated forever. I love Pearl.
These two think it's an A tier. If it was up to me, right? If just my opinion, Pearl would be S tier. To build upon what you said, Cole, the tone change where we go to like this gross shadowy farm to this like Technicolor Texas farm where we get to see a young Pearl not turn into who she is, but kind of watch her be what she always was. I can't say enough about how amazing that movie is. I think even from like just on a craft level, the decision to have Pearl be the only perspective that we get in a slasher movie where it's almost always about the victims 99% of the time and the escape of them, for it to just solely be about her and to give like such like humanity and depth to a slasher character. Every part of it is so believable. I think the ending scene, the final shot, is like one of the best I've ever seen. The smile that fades into like this disturbing cry. I could talk about that forever, so I won't. But there's a video essay and a review if people want to hear more of what we have to say about that.
When I first heard there was going to be a remake of Clive Barker's Hellraiser, I was very excited. Hellraiser is one of my favorites. It's got some shitty sequels, but the first 2, solid movies. I do not like this movie very much. The coolest part about this movie is the Cenobites, as always, and the work on the makeup and effects of this movie alone make it at least a D tier movie. But it was on the teeter totter of being an F tier movie for me. The main character is probably the hardest part for me to get into. For the review, this is probably one of my most disappointing movies to review on the channel so far.
I agree with that. I don't think I'm not quite as low on it as you are, but I could definitely see why you feel that way. I think like maybe seeing the Hellraiser mythology explored a little bit was an interesting part of it, but ultimately not why I'm there. I'm focused mostly on positive here. Big dub to the the makeup team though, makeup and special effects team. They did amazing. But I respect the attempt. Big swing, trying to do some different things with the franchise. But I think it's always tricky to do that with franchises like this because ultimately people like me and you and Corey are there for pretty specific reasons. And if you don't fulfill those and you don't really execute upon the other things that you're trying to do, kind of leaves the movie in limbo a little bit as far as what I can take from it.
The movie's hard to follow for me, man. The main character is just making. I don't mind, dumb main characters or whatever, but I just felt like why did she go to the mansion or whatever it was? It just didn't make sense. It was hard to follow it because she was just making a lot of bad decisions. But it is really gross, which kind of kept me into it too. But aside from like the brutal scenes, there wasn't much for me to take away from it.
After she accidentally sacrificed like 5 or 6 people, and you're just now getting to the maybe I should throw this away, I was like, what's this character doing? A lot more thoughts on that in the review. Speaking of movies that should have been released in theaters and is a revamp to the horror franchise, Prey is what you're supposed to do when you reboot a horror franchise. This movie has no business being as good as it is, but taking it back to basics, Predator versus Hunter. I love this movie. I thoroughly enjoyed the action in it. It was very action packed. It didn't focus on being scary, which I think benefited from it. It very much knew what it was. It was trying to be an action movie, and the Predator was super menacing. I love how he was more savage and more, he wasn't as armored up. It was cool to see like a different version of the Predator. The Predator versus Naru, I think it was one of the coolest dynamics of the year, and watching Naru kind of prove herself and her know that she's this badass, but to have to prove it to everybody else, it makes the payoff of the end of that movie so much more satisfying.
This one, I mean, I think you could argue it's the best out of the entire franchise if you really wanted to. It was really cool seeing Predator kind of taken back to a different timeline where I agree with what you said about him being more savage. I mean, the dude's out there sleeping bears, like really chin checking bears. And it's really fun. The entire time I was watching it, I was like, why didn't this come out in theaters? Because I think it would have been perfect for a theater experience.
Yeah, I love the idea of having the Predator dropped at different timelines. I love that they did this movie. Like, it's not trying to cash grab you. It's not trying to be like, oh, we're going to make a part 2. This part 2 is coming. It's like they knew what they were doing. They understood the assignment, and they executed on it well. I'm really interested in seeing something like that. Like, maybe we have one that's way in the future or just in different timelines.
I really thought this movie was going to be bad, so putting it on the B tier, I'm actually quite surprised that I enjoyed it as much as I did. Similar to Top Gun Maverick, to have such a long time in between your sequels and your movie end up this good, cinema's peak. Avatar 2, The Way of Water, has no business being as good as it is, yet James Cameron does it again. He makes the Avatar world just as interesting in a whole new place. He expands on the lore. He introduces us to new characters that we care about instantly. By the end of that movie, I'm wondering, where is this end? What is this franchise going to be? Because it made the first one better. And if each story is going to be different every single time, the world's going to keep expanding. Who knows where we're going to go with this movie, but I was transported during this movie. Any problems I had going into the theater, when I sat down and watched that movie, I was in another place. And at the end of the day, that's what I'm looking for when I go to the movies. I loved it. 3 hours never went by so fast for me.
The story, the visuals, the tech that's used, and just how much like they accentuate the use of mocap and CGI and things like that, and how it's used to actually uphold a movie instead of kind of take the easy way out. So it's accused of doing a lot. It felt like an epic to me. I feel like that's a movie that's worthy of being called an epic. Having seen it, you could have sat me down for a couple more hours if you really wanted to, and I would have been totally fine. The world is so big that there's so many directions you could take the sequels in, and all of them feel like super appropriate. Need to see it. So I've not been this excited for a franchise in a very long time. Very worthy of an S tier. Very worthy of an S tier.
Long wait, yes. Worth the wait, yes. Like, if you could be any kind of movie watcher. You could go to movies for visuals or plot or world building or anything. You could be one of those people that just wants to have a connection with characters, man. And it's got all of it. It's almost like a perfect movie.
Longest review on the channel, and the only 10 out of 10 across the board from all of us. I don't know what it would have been if we reviewed Top Gun Maverick and all these other movies we missed, like Everything Everywhere All at Once. But at this moment, it is the first perfect film here at the Dork Side. The grossest movie of the year for me, Bones and All, is one of those movies that it's like once in the every 10-year kind of like, it's disturbing to watch, but in the best way possible. It's a good movie. It's so good. But it's so hard to watch them eat people in this world of just not being able to stop yourself from eating people. I don't know, man. There's scenes in this that still stick with me when I'm just like randomly like doing the dishes or something. I'll randomly think back to one of these scenes and be like, "Oh my god." A tier movie. I think if you're a horror fan or you're kind of like you like those artsy movies that are kind of period pieces but a little quirky and weird, I think you got to watch this one.
It is gross and excessive in that it's all those things. It very much does not shy away from the fact that it's a movie about cannibals. But I think even in all of that gore and grotesqueness, like it still is like to me a very great and poignant coming of age story and a love story, and kind of encapsulates all those feelings of I think a lot of people who struggle with addiction or maybe feel like outcasts, suddenly finding that they're not as alone as they thought they were. Yeah, touching movie, despite it being really, really gross.
Corey and I haven't seen Puss in Boots: The Last Wish because it literally just came out, but Dallas has magically found time to go watch this movie. Where do you rank this one for 2022?
I think this would be an A tier for me. I think you should go into this knowing that it is a movie marketed mostly towards children, and I think that's something to keep in mind. Please go in there with the fun hat on. Do not be the fun police about it. I was kind of skeptical of the new style that they're using, especially for a Shrek property, because I've like the original Shrek movies are so near and dear to me. I thought it was beautiful. I thought this movie was a lovely little meditation on what it means to be alive. And it kind of asked the question that if you had one final wish, what would you wish for? And would you give it to someone else or save it for yourself? And I think you're just watching Puss in Boots, a predominantly arrogant and selfish character at this stage, kind of come to grips with his own mortality, try to be more selfless. Quality of performance is all around the board, and still that very distinct like style of humor that's present in all the Shrek movies, where you could hear the same joke and laugh at it as a child or laugh at it as an adult, and for completely different reasons. It's still brilliant in that regard. One of the best animated movies I've seen in a very long time. I have not seen Pinocchio and things like that, but I think I'd have to check those out before I make this claim. But I feel comfortable in saying that's the best animated movie of 2022 by far.
Now, if you ever wanted to leave the theater with the taste of shit in your mouth, it would be Morbin time. Morbius. Fuck this movie.
Fuck this movie.
Fuck this movie.
F tier across the board. Worst movie of 2022. This movie has no redeeming qualities. Cash grab out the ass. Don't watch it if you haven't seen it. It's not even worth the memes. And it's probably the worst movie of 2022, to be honest. Like,
I think the memes would be better if you haven't seen it, honestly.
Yeah.
Like the memes are the best part of the movie. And I think for that, it justifies its existence. I will say, though, if we could all go see it, don't watch it, just like rent it and then turn your TV off so that we could clown them into making a Morbius 2 and then it bombs again. If we could do that, that would be worthwhile, in my opinion.
So that's all the movies of 2022 that we watched. We ranked them S to F. Let us know if you agree with our list, if you would change anything, if you put something higher or lower. And if you want to check out any of the reviews that we have of these movies, it's going to be in the description down below. So check those out if you want to see our more in-depth thoughts on some of these movies, especially Pearl and Avatar. And Prey, I would say, is some of our best reviews. If you made it this far, go ahead and hit us with a like. And if you want to see me just cringe at Barbarian, we do have the Barbarian reaction where Corey and Dallas love the movie, and I'm sitting there trying not to gouge my eyes out. So if you want to see us horribly, horribly react to Barbarian, check it out on the screen right here. But until the next time, guys, peace.